Hi, I'm Miriam Catellis, and I'm going to share a little bit about my art and the reasons behind them. And I'm very excited to be sharing this with you. I was born in Flushing, Queens, and although I was born in America, I actually didn't speak English until I was in fourth grade. This was because we moved to Paraguay, South America, where my family's from, when I was 5, and I have no idea why this happened. I'm sure it was some kind of visa situation. My parents were very excited about moving back, and at that time, I had 2 siblings. When we moved back, I was an English language learner in 4th grade, and this was in New York City. And just to sort of point out the differences, in Paraguay, we had outhouses, and then boom, we moved to New York City where everything is bustling and it's a huge urban situation. And so it's a very big change. So early on, there was significant world splits, and I will explain those in a minute. But there was a lot of different sort of very extremes worlds going on at the same time in my life. And so art became a way of sort of addressing these splits. So here we are, there's two worlds coexisting, and there was a home life versus emotionally healthy lives. So there was a lot of commotion and I would say trauma in my early adolescence and early childhood. And there was the world outside of my home where I always saw emotionally healthy lives going on. I was again an English language learner, and so there was that split. And then there was wealthy versus working class. My mom was a housekeeper. That's what she did. She was a single mother, and I would often spend time with her in these homes where she worked at. And they were people who owned like 2 or 3 homes, sometimes in the Hamptons. So it was like a huge split. Then not including the cultural differences where there were lots of different uh differences with marriages and chores and sort of roles of girls and boys. Level of independence in the Latino community is very different than in America, like things like sleepovers, for example. And then what is public and private? That was a big split. There was a lot of things going on in our home. So there was always this idea of like everything is private, everything is hidden. And it was always sort of this weird line of what we speak about with others that are outside the home. That was a huge issue growing up. And then the last one, like I mentioned earlier, was nature versus urban. When I was growing up in South America, we were pretty much outside most of the time, even when it rained. We are playing with kids. When you're living in a large urban city, uh, we my mom was a working mom. So, being a latchkey kid, I was terrified by stories of being kidnapped. So that was a huge thing. So it was going from one to another. It was very, very drastic. So I call these in between spaces. And when you grow up in between spaces, and I'm not the only one, obviously, who's ever done that. I've met many, many, many people. I would say most of us grow up in between spaces where we have to coexist between two worlds. And you start wondering who you are, and it's really a struggle to be able to learn how to love who you are. So that became sort of the catalyst for a lot of my art making. I started to struggle with identity. That was a big issue. Um, Again, because of those splits, learning how to love myself and feeling settled, the idea of feeling settled. And there was always a big question of, um, are we supposed to always feel like a split? Is that like normal? Is that how we're supposed to exist? This series, I know this series is not here, but it is at the Meadowlark Gardens right now if you wanted to view it. But this series is called Trashy Landscapes. And with Trashy Landscapes, I wanted to explore the idea of using trash to create beautiful landscapes. These are all just things from my recycling bin, yarn, um, gift wrappings. Some of them are loom bands, some of them are string, cardboard, cardstock. And I went for a hike in, I think it's called Merrick in New York. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Freeport, New York. And they have a landfill that was turned into a nature preserve. And I don't know, that just sort of made me think of how we value some things and not others. And the idea of worthiness was huge while I was working with this series, self-worthiness especially, and how long we value things and why we value things. So here you see lots of recycled materials being used to create dreamy landscapes and just exploring the idea of worthiness and using trash as worthiness. Again, huge in my sort of trying to figure out my own self-worth. One fundamental question that kept coming up, again, like I mentioned earlier, and in this book, Reiner Einsler, Einsler, in The Power of Partnership, says this quote, and I just read it the other day and I thought it was perfect. It says, "Is it all cruelty, violence, and suffering in a world inevitable? Is there an alternative? And what is it? And what can we do to get there?" This was huge, the idea of suffering, being in that in-between space is true suffering. And for me, trying to figure out a way to find unity between those two spaces in all different ways was very important. I found spirituality through Buddhism and meditation, and I started to think of this idea of how, true inner peace or the truth, the inner peace would only be reached when all parties um, are able to sort of coexist. And so the idea that all parties being happy is a possibility and find joy. Sorry about that, I'm missing a word. Again, as I said, I struggled with identity, and I thought one way, oh, let me find out where my roots are from, because that was a big deal. Um, you know, it was huge. Identity is a huge thing, obviously. So I went ahead and I thought this was a way to find out who I was. And it didn't go the way I expected because instead of feeling connected to my roots, I didn't actually feel connected to anything from Spain, because over here you see Iberia, which is part of Spain. I don't feel any connection to people from Spain. But what it did make me feel was this sort of enormous love for all of humanity and all these people that came before me, and what it took to get to me, loving how it took pain and suffering and violence. All of those things is in my own blood. And that's sort of made me reflect on uh, sort of my own value as an individual, as a unique, non-replaceable individual. And this is what brings about this work. We are the people. And there are some close-ups here. And again, I used skin tone paint to create this work. and I'm an art teacher, so we often use these paints for our own self-portraits. So I thought I would use these paints. I ordered a set, and my daughter and I went ahead and just sort of painted all the surfaces and let them pour all around, mimicking sort of how we're all so unique. And if you close up on these faces, they're all incredibly unique in different percentages of different colors. And I really love the message that it carries. Again, it was important to acknowledge all the work and fear and love and hate that brought us to this moment. And I think that that's what this work signifies to me. And and then again, also acknowledging, um, I'm sorry, acknowledging the beauty and uniqueness of us, who we are. And I love this quote of who else would you be if not you? You know, who else would be you if you're not you? And that's a huge message as a teacher myself. A lot of times kids um, are looking at other kids and feeling miserable because they're not like other kids, or they don't have the things these other kids have, or they don't have the experiences. But no one else could be you, and no one else would be um, strong enough to sort of live your own life. So I think it's really important to value one's uniqueness, whatever that journey has been. And then I started thinking about a world that works for everyone, and is it possible? And what part do I play in that? And I started joining as a New Thought spiritual center, and they always talk about a world that works for everyone, and that is exactly what I'm looking for, a world that works for everyone. And as artists, we are also thinkers. And so I came up with the flag series, which are also under the We the People series. And here are some close-ups. And then this piece is not in the show, but it started me thinking about what it is to be an American. Um, and I think this series came up around the time, maybe post-pandemic. There's a lot of um, tension between, what it is to be an American, and people are trying to define what it is. So again, I want to start with me and what my experience has been, because that's my only truth. And I've always grown up with this idea of this citizenship being something of great value, great value. And I have myself helped 3 people in my family go through the citizenship test. And um, so my mom became a citizen when I was a teenager. I was constantly translating for her at that time. My stepdad is waiting right now to hear about citizenship. He's about 3 months away from an answer. And my uncle just recently became a citizen, and I helped him through that process as well. And it was a very, very emotional conversation with him when I called him to congratulate him. It again, it just being a citizen to people in my family has always been the most amazing gift a human can get. Like, that is how important it is to my family. Um, and so I started to reflect on what the value of citizenship is to me and to my family. And um, I wanted to share a couple of things, a couple of reasons why being an American has been specifically important to me. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I was in a relationship with a woman. Her name was Carol. She has since passed. And you know, I had a I was able to walk around Virginia hand in hand with her, and we never had an issue. Um, every once in a while we'd had some weird comments, but yes, at that time in the early 90s, we could not get married, but we were in a committed relationship, or we did a commitment ceremony. So, you know, the ability to have that was meaningful. This is her. She was, after we broke up, um, she had transitioned to a man, and this is actually my own sister. She's also transitioned. So the ability to live a life in which you can be happy, because this is my sister. She is part partly blind, living by herself in Georgia, and is living her life. And I'm so proud of her. So to be in America and having that is a huge thing. Um, Also, I have a daughter, and I think um, being able to dream big and teaching her that dreaming big is huge, because growing up in Paraguay, that's not really possible. And I will talk about that in a minute. But here's my son. He graduated from high school. He's at UVA, and here's a picture of myself doing ultra races. I'm involved in some extreme sports, um, endurance running and endurance walking. So all those things are possible because of where we live. And if I were, I thank my mom every day that she moved here and is an American. And I'm just, I mean, all these amazing, um, happy, amazing experiences. And thanks to my mom dreaming big herself. So, talking about my mom, this is my mom growing up in Paraguay. When she moved to America, she started working as a housekeeper. My mom worked as a house cleaner, housekeeper to the same family for 30 years. And this is the family. We just recently went to visit them. And they have been amazing at supporting us through not only the citizenship process, but through college and beyond. So um, I love this picture of my mom right here. She looks incredibly strong, and she went through so much so that my son and my daughter could live the dream. And it just goes back to that genealogy, um, image of, you know, all your ancestors and how they dreamed big for you. And sometimes you don't even know who those people are going to be. But my mom had a big dream, and she came to America, and she worked her butt off, and as a single mother, to allow us to live the way we live. And I can't be thankful enough for her sacrifice. Um, Once I felt I was a little bit more grounded, I started making these, uh, my new pieces is called Grounded. And I started thinking of how I could um, use my energy, my love to support humanity and to allow everyone to live their best lives. And some things just felt right, and connecting with my own body seemed to help me find answers. So a lot of it was tuning into my body. I became a practitioner in a healing modality called cognitive movement, which allows you to tune into your body. And um, and I started to turn trauma into empowerment, because there's something about trauma. We all go through trauma of different degrees. We all grow up with some kind of pain. You could have the most amazing parents, and you still will walk away um, with some form of trauma. And it's really important to flip it and to find empowerment regardless of where you began. And again, this answer that I feel is an answer I got because it felt better. It felt better to feel empowered than to be victimized by my trauma. In my body, it feels better to be empowered. Um, so then there's another fundamental question arose, and that was, can I use art to create a universal language of healing? Can I use art to sort of art that people can look at and will feel healed and connected? Um, and so I started creating works that sort of sort of spoke a human language that needed no interpretation. Um, and I haven't stopped. I feel like this is sort of my new route. You can see these pieces at, like I said, in Meadowlark. It's going to be there till April 29th, 2024. You can also view them at my website, catellasart.com. So in the end, I feel everything is energy, and there are answers that weaken us, and there are answers that make us stronger. So anything that disempowers us cannot be an answer. So that's sort of where I am at the moment as an artist. And I feel that love is the strongest element in the universe. And here is a graphic I created. I do lots of graphics for t-shirts and other items. And these are just some truths that I've come up with, and I'm going to leave you with them. And we are much more powerful than we think we are. And that is true with anyone you meet, that we are so much more than we think we are, and that we have the power to shift that. Um, the next truth that I know is that we are meant to find joy, and that joy is our birthright. Um, like I say, enjoy life. So I feel like we are all entitled to feel joyful and to be happy and to feel settled in our lives. And we're not, we have some work to do. And the last truth I want to leave you with is that anger, hatred, jealousy, violence, and fear are not part of any answer, not part of any answer. So it's a it it's our job to check in with our bodies and to check in and make sure that these feelings are not within us when if we're trying to find answers. We have to make sure that there's no anger, no hatred, no violence, no jealousy, no fear when we're making decisions, when we are moving forward with our lives. And this is another graphic I made called Parent Yourself with Love. And I'm going to leave you with that thought. And thank you very much for hearing about my art. And I hope you can follow me. You can find me on catellasart.com. Thank you.